Welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast, where we talk to the women who are changing the world through their lives. They are changing the world for themselves and for every girl coming up behind them. We are back with a new season, and in living color, we are doing video podcasting this season. So make sure that you subscribe and listen and watch everywhere that you get your podcasts. We are on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere. So make sure that you subscribe and please share this with your friends and family. You never know whose life a story like this might change. On today's episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, I am so excited to welcome Jordan Belous to the show. Jordan is the founder and CEO of WHIP Pediatric Cancer, an organization she started at just 16 years old. 16, incredible. Jordan's story starts before she was even old enough to understand what cancer was. When she was just 2 years old, her mom was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, most often found in children. By some miracle, she survived, but growing up, Jordan befriended other children fighting the same battle, fighting cancer, and one by one, she lost them. At 7 years old, she asked her parents through tears, why don't they save anyone from cancer? That question never left her. A few years later, a 14-second video of Jordan doing the whip nae-nae in her backyard went viral, reaching millions, spreading to 47 countries, and raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for pediatric cancer research. The dance faded, but the mission didn't. This is a story about what happens when grief becomes purpose and when a little girl's broken heart refuses to stay broken and she chooses to help other people. Jordan is incredible and her story is so inspiring. I hope that you will take some time to listen or watch this incredible episode. Jordan, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. I've followed your story for a while now, and I know that we both message back and forth, and I'm so excited that the One Girl Revolution podcast is back, and I'm just excited to have you on to share all about your incredible work, your own story. And so before we get into the work that you're doing, I would love to rewind and hear a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what life was like growing up. And I also know that you were really young when your mom was diagnosed with cancer. So maybe kind of pull in that story as well.
Okay, awesome. So hi, my name is Jordan Belous. I'm 27 years old. I am the CEO and founder with Pediatric Cancer. It's crazy to think that pediatric cancer has been part of my life for the last 25 years. My mom was diagnosed with cancer when she was 35 years old and I was 2 years old. So I have literally been surrounded by this my whole entire life. When she got better, she always brought me and my brother to different charity events and things that we can do to get involved. And I just was super passionate about it and just wanted to be involved and help as many kids as possible. When I was in elementary school, I would color on shells and sell pencils and pipe cleaners and all the different things. And then, through middle school, I tried to get involved in key clubs and stuff like that and try to sell pens and pins and anything that we could for the cause. And then in high school, everyone was out partying and drinking. I was like, Mom, let's go to the hospital, and just always really just been drawn to the cause. But born and raised in New York, so a lot of the nonprofit started in Manhattan and Long Island, and now I'm a Floridian for the last 7 years. So I've also been doing, some of the work down here in Florida.
So I know that this story kind of how I want to get into the story of how the organization came about, but it's kind of layered from what I read about how, your mom was going through cancer and then you were doing all this activism. And I'm always just so blown away by kids who just see a need in their community or experience something like what you were experiencing. Obviously, your mom was going through cancer treatment and you're seeing that, but then you started befriending all these little kids who were in the hospital for cancer. And you experienced from a young age, people like your little friends passing away from cancer because there wasn't treatment out there for them, or the treatment didn't work. Can you talk about that, being little and losing some of your friends and seeing
Mhm.
cancer, pediatric cancer in that way, and kind of what was the spark moment that you were like, I want to do something big or bigger?
Yeah. So actually it's pretty crazy, but my parents didn't tell my brother or I that my mom was sick. It was kind of just they would go to the hospital and we were either watched by grandparents or friends. And we never really were told or taught about cancer. It was kind of just, part of our story and part of our lives. And my mom would take us to go on these visits. And there was two kids that I got really close to. One was named Jessica and one was named Tanner. And both of them passed away. And I was probably 9 years old at this point, if not a little bit younger. And I remember my parents sitting me down and telling me that Jessica had passed away. And I was absolutely devastated. And I was like, why don't the doctors save them, and why don't they do anything? And I don't understand, like, why don't they do anything? And they don't save anybody, and this is just crazy. And my dad like kind of like looked at my mom and he was like, well, they saved mom. And I it was just like a mind-blowing moment. Like, what do you mean mom had that? Like, because I was so little, you don't remember. um and they told me how important it is to raise money for research. And as a family, we've always donated to Sloan Kettering for research and just, helping fund, these trials and stuff that my mom was able to be a part of. And yes, some of the kids don't make it, but some do. And we have to focus on the ones that do and just keep being involved in this cause so that more people can be, survivors like my mom. And I think that's really what, sparked the interest of with pediatric cancer and wanting to just do more in the community.
So talk about, building with pediatric cancer. I know that there was a viral TikTok video that is a part of this story, but you have this idea, you want to do something more. How did
Mhm.
you say, I'm going to start a nonprofit, and just kind of talk about the mission of the work that you do as well?
So I was on the beach with my mom, my brother, and I was listening to the song Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay in my headphones. And I like took one out and I'm like, what do you guys think of like doing like the ALS ice bucket challenge? But doing it with pediatric cancer, and you have to either dance or donate. And both of them were like giggling. They were like, oh, it's like a little silly. And I called my dad. I'm like, what do you think of, with pediatric cancer? And he has an IT business. And he's like, if this is what you want to do, then let's do it. So we kind of put all, everything in motion, and we got a website up and running. I posted the video of myself doing the dance, and it was actually on Facebook. So this was before things went viral super easily. And the video got thousands and thousands and thousands of views overnight. Our house phone at the time was like ringing and ringing, ringing nonstop of news stations and magazines and newspapers that wanted to interview and share the story. And it kind of just blew up from there. And since that, dance went viral, we had this huge platform of all these people following and wanting to know what was next. So that's when we formed the 501c3 nonprofit. I know you asked about the mission too. So
Yeah.
the mission is kind of, everyone's always like, what don't you do? So the mission is all over the place. So I believe in pediatric cancer research. My mom was saved by a clinical trial. And I believe that there's a cure out there, and I believe we can find it with the funding. I also know the reality that a lot of these kids, they don't survive, and the quality of life is super important as well. And just doing things that make memories for them and their family, and just, giving them these experiences that they would have never had. So I'm really big on, the visits and the quality of life, the wishes, the surprises, the packages. Uniport Dresses is our new program that we just launched, giving little girls a dress that they can wear when they're going for chemotherapy, for easy port access. Birthday boxes, care packages, and just really trying to spread the love all over the country. Obviously, I can't visit everywhere, but seeing a package from WHIP and being excited about something is just, it's the best feeling in the world. So just doing a little bit of everything.
Tell me about the care packages. So, like, what are the types of things that are in that? Because people that haven't experienced pediatric cancer, they might be
Mhm.
like, well, what kind of things can they actually give?
So the first question that we ask when somebody signs up for a care package is what do they like? And I know, when someone hears cancer, they're like, oh, it's blankets and socks and all of like those comfy, cozy things for chemotherapy. But really, these kids are just kids and they want to be treated like a kid. And they're also an individual. They're not just, a number to us or another kid or another we're just going to put a bunch of crayons and coloring books in this box. We're really going to make sure that every single kid gets exactly what they like and what they love. And just opening a box with your favorite things inside and knowing that this was made just for you, I think that's super special and it's super unique about with pediatric cancer. And when we do our meetings on, the board end of things, I'm always like, I want to just make sure that that personalization never goes away, no matter how big we do get. I just want the kids to get something that is geared 100% towards their likes, their interests, their age, favorite colors, favorite sports, favorite princess, whatever they like is in that box. So that's how our care packages work.
And is it kids of all ages, or is there an age demographic? And is it all across the country? Or tell me about that.
Yeah, so all ages. We have it available to sign up for the boxes on the website. So any person that's considered pediatric, I think it's under the age of 23, will send boxes, gift cards, whatever they're people, looking for. And it's all over the country. So we send boxes out every single day, all the way to California, close to us in New York or Florida, and just we also will sometimes hand deliver these care packages depending, where I'm at or what we're doing that day. So they do go all over the country, though.
That's so cool. And I know that everybody who's listening is going to want to get involved and see the work that you're doing. And we've highlighted so many stories on this podcast of people of different ages who are going through cancer, but specifically children going
Mhm.
through pediatric cancer, because it's so important for us to share these stories and share these resources. So I know that people in our community are going to be sharing all about WHIP and all the great work that you're
Thank you.
doing. And I can't wait to
Thanks.
continue to follow everything that you're doing. But this podcast is all about stories, Jordan, and I would love to hear maybe a story or two of a kid that you've helped through your work and just showing the impact of, what might seem as small to some people, like even the little care packages, but just showing the massive impact on these kids' lives. Is there a story or two you could share?
Yeah, so I guess the first one I'll share is actually a little girl that I've never met, but it's someone recent in my mind that I'm thinking of. So I came across a story on Facebook of a little girl named Rylan, and she was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, and she had clear scans in May. And just 2 weeks later, her scans showed that she had cancer in her brain. And I was like, how is that even possible? Like, she was clear, celebrating, ringing the bell. And then 2 weeks later, she was back in the fight. And she's the cutest, prettiest little girl. And I was just super drawn to her. And I messaged the page and I'm like, what can we do? What can we do to help? And what does she like? Can we send a package? Like, can we send gift cards? Like, please let us help you. And the mom wrote back, she's like, that'd be so great, whatever. She's a huge Taylor Swift fan. And through with pediatric cancer, we actually got to take one of our patients to see Taylor Swift in Miami at the Eras tour, like 2 Octobers ago. And I figured out how to make Taylor Swift like replicated outfits with all these like bedazzles and gems and stuff like that. And so that has become part of the with pediatric cancer, where I'll make these dresses and send them out to these Swifties. And Rylan is a huge Swiftie. So I said, all right, let me know what era she likes and who to replicate and which costume to replicate. I'll get in the mail. And she wrote back, love her. And I ordered all the stuff and I started working on it. And as I'm about to ship it out, She ended up in emergency brain surgery, and they weren't sure that she would survive. And I was devastated. And I sent the box out. I overnighted it. I was like, I just want her to get it. And I did an American Girl that was bald, but was also wearing the lover outfit. And I texted mom, I'm like, I just want her to be able to see it. I want her to get it. And she did have her surgery and she survived. And after a week, she, hadn't woken up. And we were just praying. I'm like, I just really want her to see this. I want her to, and she woke up, and her mom said the first thing that she did when she opened her eyes was give Rylan this box. And she took a video and sent it to me, and I was like, in tears, of course, as you can imagine. And, she has a big scar on her. I'll send you the photo, but she has a big scar on her head. And then one of her eyes is shut. And her mom holds up the doll and the outfit and the little like sparkly boots. And her face just like, her jaw was on the floor. She was so excited. And the mom was like, do you know what this is? And like, she was just like, that was the first thing that she got to see. And to her surprise, she was waking up in a hospital room with a new scar on her head. All her hair had fallen out. But, instead of seeing that, she saw this handmade Taylor Swift outfit. So I think that is the magic of WHIP in one story. And she's actually doing a little bit better. And she made her way back up to New York to start treatment. And we'll be in New York this summer. So I'm excited to connect with her. But I just think that story just represents WHIP in the best way possible.
Totally. Well, just
Yeah.
it's creating magic for these kids, right? And day in and day out, they're going through so much and all the testing and all the chemo, and it just wears on. I know as an adult, like those types of things wear on our bodies, and it's like pediatric cancer just pulls on my heartstrings because these poor little babies, they go through so much. And so just to create these special magical moments for them, and it doesn't take a lot, right? It's one of those things, and we talk about that a lot on this podcast, that we all can do something. So it's whether it's we get involved in an organization like yours, or if we know a child who's going through pediatric cancer, we can all do that too. We can pull together a little care package, or if they love Taylor Swift, we can, and we know how to sew, right? Whatever your gift and talent is, like do that. And you just can bring so much light to people. You brought up with Rylan was her name?
Yes.
Yeah. So Rylan, there was a moment where you didn't know if she was going to make it. And I know that there are the sad, heartbreaking situations where some of the children that you're working with, they don't make it. How do you deal with that pain? And how do you deal with what you're going through when you lose some of these kids to cancer?
Yeah. So unfortunately, loss is part of the territory here. We've talked about it a lot, how loss has affected me over the years, and just developing as a human, dealing with a lot of loss from a young age, and just seeing loss firsthand like this, and really knowing these people. Most people, they lose a parent when they're, old age, or they, their aunt or someone passed away that was 85 years old, and they aren't super familiar with loss in the magnitude that I've experienced loss. When I was 18 years old, I lost Tessa, who's a huge part of my mission. And that was the first major loss for me. Speaking a eulogy at a funeral is something that I never thought I would have to do, and let alone do it once, do it multiple times. And all these families, they attend their child's funeral, but to keep doing it over and over and over again, it's disgusting. And just, there's really no word to explain. It's so heartbreaking. And, seeing these kids that fought with everything that they have in a casket is something that you can't even put into words. Last year, I had a really hard loss, and I wanted to give up. I was like, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. And someone told me, if this is your calling, it won't break you. It will just make you stronger. And after taking some time off and to reflect, I just wanted to get back involved and get back into it. And it really only took, like a month or so to be like, kind of itching to do the next thing or just, help the next person. And I really believe that's true. I think this is my calling. And I think that I've been given a lot of strength to, continue to get through these losses. A lot of things that I have in my apartment or wear is an angel wing, and I believe in angels, and I think that they've guided me through my mission and my journey and have gotten WHIP to where it's at right now. So I have a lot of faith in that, and just knowing I have so many guardian angels and knowing that this work is a day closer to seeing all these kids again is just something I keep with me, and try to just keep plugging along. But it is really, really hard. And it's a lot of sadness, a lot of tears, a lot of heartbreak. But knowing that you were able to provide these amazing memories for these kids, these families, the siblings, that wouldn't have been possible without WHIP is, you can't even put a word on it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think your lesson there about sometimes you just need to take a break and take a step back. That's something that
Yes.
all of us can relate to. And I know even myself with One Girl Revolution. And I know when you and I were messaging, I was like, the podcast is on pause because I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with it. And that's okay. Like, that's what I've learned is sometimes for your own wellness and well-being, like you need to put pause on things. And now, thankfully, I know you have other people that you can lean on within the organization that you can be like, hey, I need to take a step back. I need to take some time, and other people can step up to the plate. And that's why it's so
Yes.
important for things like this podcast where people can hear about the organization and they want to get involved. And it's like, cool, you have other people that you can tap in when you need to take that break.
100%.
So you brought up Tessa. I'd love for you to rewind and tell that story. What can you tell me about Tessa, who she was, what she meant to you? And I know that she's a big part of WHIP. What was that promise that you made to her?
So Tessa, I met right when I started with pediatric cancer. So about a month after my dance video, we went to Times Square, and Times Square was going gold for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And Tessa was there, and she's a way better dancer than me. And her and one of our other little friends, Alexa, the two of them were doing the whip and the nae nae in the middle of Times Square in these gold princess dresses. And Tessa kept saying to her mom, can they come back and visit? Can they come visit? And that was never part of the plan of WHIP Pediatric Cancer. It was kind of just raising money for research and giving a check at the end of the year and, being part of the community in that way. And they were in town from Michigan getting treatment at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. And of course, I was dying to go back and see her. And of course, that came with bringing a gift and all of the things. Also, her friend Alexa that she was with, she also passed away just a couple of years ago. But the two of them were very integral parts of with pediatric cancer. So like I was saying to you before, Tessa ended up passing away 2 years after what pediatric cancer started. In between, we got to make a ton of memories, and they say you look for a soulmate in a partner or a relationship, but I believe that, she was mine, and we would always call each other soul sisters. And yeah, so we were just, super, super close. And before she passed away, no one told Tessa that she was passing away, and nobody told me either. It kind of just, a week or two before, my mom was like, it's not good. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was just as shocked as everybody else. She was doing cartwheels 2 weeks before she passed away. She was always smiling, always having fun, always making the best of everything. Till the very end, she was, on hospice. She wanted to make brownies. She just was always, doing something and enjoying her days and loving her life. And when I was saying goodbye to her, we had conversation about some things I kind of prompted to her and wanted to know from her. For me, future kids' names and just, some things that she wants me to do for my wedding or something like that in the future that I want her to be a part of. And I told her I would continue this mission. So, our logo has her ear and her earring and the flower that she was wearing in her hair in one of her pictures. Her face will always be, the top of the website, and her story on every single podcast is shared, and just continuing her legacy. Her siblings were 2 and an infant when they passed away. So a lot of their memories of her from word of mouth from me and from videos that I've shown them. Her little sister, Marley, we have a Snapchat streak and we talk every single day. And I just, try to step in as that older sister role. And they live in Michigan, but we, are constantly in contact with them and, have continued to carry her story and make sure that nobody ever forgets her. And, she continues to be included in everything we do. And, she's the most important person we've ever met. And I don't know if any of this would have happened without her. So that's the story of Tessa.
Yeah, well, and her legacy, like you said, her legacy continues on. And that's the power of organizations like yours and storytelling. I just so believe in the power of stories changing the world, and her little light continues to shine through you. And I know that she continues to walk alongside you and help support this mission. And yeah, what a beautiful contribution that you're making to the world by sharing her story and sharing the stories of some of these children too. And there's positive stories too that you see. I know that there are kids that beat cancer, which is always incredible. I had the mom of a little girl on who she's 2 years old and she beat pediatric cancer. And I'm like, I love hearing those stories too, because we need to hear the positive side. But when it comes to pediatric cancer, it's one of those causes that, from my perspective, people might see a story and they get really like amped up about it and they want to talk about it. And then our attention span is so short, right? So we move on to the next Instagram reel or whatever, but you've embedded yourself in the fight against pediatric cancer, and I know you've learned so much about pediatric cancer. For people that are listening, what do you want people to know about pediatric cancer? What people are going through. I also know that like only 4% of federal cancer research funding goes to pediatric cancer, which is mind blowing to me. But can you talk about maybe some of the stats or some of the things that that people who are listening should know?
Yeah, 100%. So like you were saying, there are some positive stories, and there actually are a lot of positive stories. So we are making improvements in the pediatric cancer world. I think, like you were saying, people watch something that's sad and that's like, easy to get the views and whatever. But there are so many kids that I get pictures of. This is Hunter on her first day of high school and she's playing basketball. And I knew Hunter when she was 6 years old. And there are kids that, are doing amazing, and we keep up with them on Facebook, or they'll send, a picture or something, and they're off to college, or they're just back into, the regular life. And I think that's something that people don't know, is that there are things that have come out that are saving these kids. And I don't want people to be discouraged that they think that there's no funding and that nothing is being done in the pediatric cancer world. That we have a doctor on our board with pediatric cancer, and I talk to her almost every single day. And I'm like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And there are new things that are being put into the clinic that kids are using that are, helping them. Yes, 4% of funding goes to pediatric cancer, and we want to do better with that. And we need people, big corporations and big people to care and get on our side and be, on our team with that. I think the biggest thing is that a majority of the funding comes from families that have been in the fight. So they rely on nonprofits like with pediatric cancer or any of these other nonprofits that are out there funding research to get these things in the trial into the clinic, because they don't have the support from the government. So donating to these small, nonprofits is really putting your money where it matters, and just we're able to get things done. And it's really unfortunate that it comes to that. My mom had to be diagnosed with cancer for this mission to even come about. And what would have happened if she wasn't diagnosed without, the funding that WHIP Pediatric Cancer has contributed, or Alex's Lemonade Stand, or Beat Childhood Cancer, or any of the other big research nonprofits like WHIP. where would funding be if it weren't for a kid being diagnosed, or my mom being diagnosed? And I think that's the unfair thing, but it's also the beautiful thing about giving to these smaller entities.
Yeah, there's so much power and it doesn't cost a lot, right? To do some of the things that
Yes.
you're doing. And so, of course, it would be great if somebody wanted to write you $1 million check. I hope that those
Yes.
people are out there and they're listening. But also, every little thing that people can do, whatever you can give, there's so much that I know WHIP can do, which is so incredible. I want to talk about some of the things that you're working on now. I know you're always innovating, you're always launching new programs. You just mentioned about the dress project that you just launched.
Yes.
What are some of the things you're working on right now? What are the new programs, and how are you growing the mission right now?
Yeah, so I feel like right now, like I was just got off the phone with my dad, and he's like, too many things at once. Like you're just talking about too many things at once. And my head is like constantly like, what can we do next? He's like, we need to start something and finish it and start something and finish it. And I just want to do everything at once. And I want to help as many kids as possible. Last night, I literally was cutting zippers for the new Uniport program and rhinestoning the next Taylor Swift outfit for one of our kids, Lucy, and she's an amputee. So I have to make sure the outfit is the correct, legs and stuff that will make sure it fits on her. And I just kept going back and forth between the two projects. And it's like a Sunday night, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm constantly doing something and thinking of something. So our Uniport program is super special to me. We are seriously hand making everything down to the zippers. I met an amazing woman. Her name is Brittany, down here in West Palm Beach. And we went through lots of zippers and fabrics, and we just wanted to make sure that these dresses are, one, comfortable, two, that they work, and three, that they're extra cute, because that's my little touch on it. So we've literally been cutting these gold zippers and adding like a little heart, gold heart to the dress, and then we cut the dress right down the middle so that they can have easy port access and don't need to get undressed. The main reason for unicorns, and people ask why unicorns, is because unicorns are different and they're unique. And, that's kind of what the whole message of a unicorn is. And just because you have scars or you have no hair or something like that doesn't mean that you're less than or different. It just means you're a unicorn. And that messaging really stuck with our families and our kids. And in 10 hours, we got 75 dress signups. We had to shut the form off so that Britt can add all the zippers, and we've been, working on that. But I got to deliver my first Uniport dress last week to a little girl, and immediately she put on the crown with the hair, and just seeing her light up when she, opened this dress was super special. So that's one of the major programs. We also, obviously, like we were talking about, do care packages, and we're always working on those. We also do birthday boxes. So we believe that birthdays are a big deal for kids fighting cancer, and you don't know if this is, the last one, or every single birthday is something that's worth celebrating. And getting a box that has all the birthday accessories and the blower and the glasses and all that stuff just makes it more exciting, and make sure that they're, equipped with all the birthday garb for to celebrate their birthday. So we've been sending out those for the last 3 months, and just working on a lot of big projects with some big corporations right now, and just trying to get childhood cancer recognized and get the funding so we can keep doing these programs. They're super, super important. And these families are, in tears when they get these packages from us. So, that the funding would help a lot.
So, on that note, what can we all do to support the work that you're doing? I know that anybody can donate. They can reach out to you and say, hey, I want to volunteer to do birthday boxes or anything like that. But also maybe somebody who's listening that might have a bigger connection for you, a corporation, or they work for a business that this might resonate with them. What are all the ways that people can support your work?
So we just launched our Angel Ambassador program, and I've been wanting to do corporate giving for a long time, but everything that I produce with Pediatric Cancer, I have to I personally have to absolutely love it. And people were, giving ideas about corporate sponsors. And one night I was just home and thinking, and I was like, what if we did like the angel numbers would be the giving tiers. So like 333 or 1111 or certain numbers that people see that remind them of angels. And each giving tier is after one of the kids that I was the closest with over the last 11 years that are now angels. So we have Karma, Charlotte, Nicholas, Mason, Juju, and Tessa. Those are the, right now, those angel tiers. So we're looking for corporations, businesses to be an angel ambassador. And that means you're committing to a yearly, monthly gift, depending on what you choose. And we would put you on our site and vice versa. So you could show, corporate giving and all of that good stuff. We also have options to sponsor the Uniport dresses or the care packages or the birthday boxes. So we know that some people want to donate to something that's more tangible, that they're not just giving it into a pool of, whatever funding. They want to say, I sponsored 5 Uniport dresses, or I gave a month of birthday boxes. So we have options on the website under how you can help for the different sponsorships. As far as our main course of fundraising, we do the Heart of Gold program. I know you've been mentioning a lot. You don't need to donate a lot to make a big difference. So we've done most of our fundraising through schools and school-age kids, and just having these kids, we have a suggested donation of just $2. So they would decorate our logo. And then the parent sends them back to school with $2 donation. And if there's 500 kids in the school and everyone gives $2, you're donating, thousands of dollars to Whip Pediatric Cancer. And I was a kid when I started Whip Pediatric Cancer. I was 16. And this has been my mission since I was a little girl. And you're never too young to be philanthropic, and you're never, too young to make a difference. And you don't need to donate, like you said, millions of dollars to help us. So it's crazy because most of the funding has come from these little kids that just, gave $1 out of their lunch money, or they just, gave $5 or something like that. And it's not, you don't need to give a lot. And I think that's a super important lesson and a really cool way for listeners to have their kids' school sign up to be part of the Heart of Gold program. And it's awareness, it's funding, it's fun, it's not sad, and there's no sadness associated with pediatric cancer. It's gold and hearts and decorating and being part of a movement. And it's just, really fun. So that's definitely a good option if you would like to get involved.
That is so cool and so innovative. And what a great thing to instill within kids, within children.
Exactly.
I think even they're born just like all of us with this need or want to do good in the world. And a lot of times we don't know what to do, right? We're like, oh, I want to do something good, or I know somebody who's going through cancer, I don't know what to do. And children deal with the same thing. And so if you can just create that opportunity for them, it's such a great example to set for them from a young age. So that's so cool. And I will be sure to put all the links in the show notes so people can reach out to you, they can get involved. What about for people that are listening? Maybe they know someone who's dealing with pediatric cancer, or they know a family. What can we do? Do we just nominate them? Do we reach out to you and say, hey, we know this family going through this? What's the protocol for that?
So I use Facebook a lot for a lot of my communications, and I've been trying to do a little bit better with Instagram. We also have contact us form on the website, but any person that's been affected by pediatric cancer, send them our way. We want to help as many kids as possible. And we get messages all the time, English, not English, just all over the place. We got a message, someone said, could you send something to Australia? Like there's just, people following and needing support all over the country and all over the world. And my motto is not saying no, and just really trying to make sure that we fulfill everybody's wishes and make sure that everyone feels a little bit of love with pediatric cancer. So if there is a family or a kid that you think could use the help, definitely send them our way, and we will make sure to get in touch and get them signed up for the birthday box, get the Uniport dress, get everything out to them, and make sure they know all the resources that they have available to them through With Pediatric Cancer.
It is so incredible what you're doing and what you've built and what
You.
you're building. And I can't wait to continue to follow and stay in touch. And I might have mentioned this to you before, but now you're a part of the sisterhood now that you've been on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we will stay in touch with you, and anything that we can do to continue to promote the great work that you're doing and connect you with other people, we're always happy to do it. But Jordan,
Thank you.
you're just so inspiring to me. And I'm so curious if you could get to the very root of why you do what you do every single day, especially those days that are really difficult. And, you're dealing with loss and you're dealing with really sad stories. You're also dealing with the amazing little warrior stories too, which are great. But if you could get to the root of why you do what you do every single day, what would you say that root is?
I think it comes down to it. It's for the kids. I think seeing these kids it makes all of the hard work and all of the tears and all of, it doesn't matter. It's once you see that care package delivered on their doorstep and the parent sends the video of them screaming with that they got a package that has their name on it. That's why we do it. And that's why we continue to do it. And that's why we have never stopped. And it's for the kids that we've lost. It's for the kids that are currently fighting. It's for the kids that are survivors, and it's for the kids that aren't diagnosed yet, that, will be. And we are here 100% for them. The whole reason this mission exists is for them, and making sure that, once they're diagnosed with cancer, that we are funding research, we are funding quality of life, we are providing friendship and community and just everything in between. Nobody on our team takes a salary. 100% of every single dollar goes directly to these kids. And so at the root of it is like you said in the beginning, I've always been drawn to kids. I love kids, and I love the innocence of them. I love being friends with them. I love how they're so honest. They're so humble. They're just genuine people. It's more fun to hang out with a 10-year-old than it is to hang out with a 27-year-old at the bar. So just the friendships that I've made and the things that I've learned from these kids, you can't be taught in a classroom. And every single thing goes back to them. So I would say that is the root of all of it.
You are just incredible, and I love all the stories of the kids that you're highlighting, and each of them are little revolutions in their own way. The fact that they're fighting against cancer, and I love those warrior stories of kids who overcome so much, and their families too. We need to mention that their families are just incredible, and what they're going through on a day-to-day basis is so difficult, but they're just beacons of light in the world. And I know that their lights are helping other people, are shining lights on other people and
100%.
helping people.
Yeah, these families they're amazing. Like without them, none of this would, be possible either. So I truly believe we've been connected with some of the most amazing people that, all over the world that we would have never known if it weren't for cancer, unfortunately. But these kids and these people they're like magic in a human. It's amazing.
Cancer is a club that nobody wants to be a part of, but it's also the way that cancer sadly connects positive things and connects people, and also offers opportunities for all of us to do good in the world. I think that's the silver lining for something that's so difficult.
Yes.
Jordan, you are a one girl revolution, but I want to create the space for you to shout out a woman or girl that inspires you. Who is a one girl revolution in your life?
I would definitely say my mom. I think you probably knew that was coming. Just the fact that she had two young kids at home and was determined to win, despite all the odds stacked against her, and despite the fact that, it wasn't looking promising for her. She wanted to be here, and she made it through all of the milestones that, weren't promised to her. And I think the fact that she's been able to use her story and help fuel the passion in me to do this, but also be integral, for with pediatric cancer, we could not do this without her. And be able to talk to parents and explain to them what their kids are feeling, because she's old enough to articulate it. And, really just being there and supporting these people through her own experience. I think that's just amazing. And I think I would say she's just the type of person that I look up to a lot, and I'm really grateful that, clinical trials were able to save her. And I think, her life is a catalyst for all these lives that we've been able to help. And I'm very lucky that I still have my mom, but the story didn't end like this for a lot of people. So we will continue to fight for them, and she will also continue to fight, and we will do everything we can to make our family story same for everybody else. So I would definitely give a shout out to her.
Shout out to your mama. I love when people shout out their moms in this space because it really is like other generations we all learn from, right? And now you're able to impact the lives of all these kids, and
Yes.
there's just so much we can learn from one another. So I love that. The last question, Jordan, that I always end this podcast on, and I'd like to ask you, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
You're never too young to make a difference. And if you have a passion, go for it. Even if it will make you look silly. I am probably the worst dancer on the planet Earth. And I started a viral dance challenge, and I did not let that stop me. And through all the years of, high school and college, and just, going through the motions of becoming an adult, I've always stayed focused on this mission, and just keep up with your passion, stay focused on the mission. And, even if people are going different directions and getting into different things, keep going where you want to go. And promise you, especially with some of the things that are going to be coming to light for with pediatric cancer in the next few months, it is 100% worth it. And no idea is silly or small, just, keep going.
That's amazing. Well, you're such a great example of all of that, Jordan. And I'm so grateful to spend this time with you to highlight your story. Thank you so much for being on the One Girl Revolution podcast. And thank you for being a One Girl Revolution and being an example to all of us. For more information on One Girl Revolution, check out onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number one, girlrevolution.com.